So you finally made it. You're a CRPO registrant. Your status as a registered psychotherapist qualifying is a sign that you have met the requirements to provide safe, competent care under supervision. How do you maintain your status as a registrant? Registering with CRPO is not a one-and-done situation. That's because, unlike a professional association that you may choose to belong to, CRPO does not work in the interests of psychotherapists. Rather, CRPO works on behalf of clients to ensure that psychotherapy is safe. That's what we mean when we say we work in the public interest. So there are a number of things you need to do to keep up your good standing and avoid certificate expiration. As soon as you become a registrant, the clock starts ticking on some of your obligations. Let's look at a calendar of your first year as a registrant. Some of these dates will move around, depending on when you register, but here are the things to look out for in your first year. Participate in the Quality Assurance Program. Within 2 months of your date of registration, you'll have to complete a self-assessment and begin a learning plan. Then there is renewal, which opens in February and closes March 31st. Renewal involves 2 steps: paying the annual fee and completing a short form. Next deadline: write your first attempt at the registration exam within 2 years of the date you submitted your application to CRPO. Altogether, you've got 3 attempts to pass the exam. Next, about 2 years after you've become a registrant, you'll need to demonstrate you've completed at least 40 hours of participation in QA-related learning activities, or 20 hours for each year of registration. Your actual deadline will always be in November, every second year after you registered. If you require 3 exam attempts, your final attempt must be made within 5 years of the date you initially submitted your application to CRPO. Finally, transfer to the full RP category within 5 years of your certificate of registration being issued. Otherwise, your qualifying certificate may expire. The requirements to participate in the QA program and complete the annual renewal will continue when you are in the full RP category. Then there are things that are evergreen, or elements of being a safe, competent registered psychotherapist that will always be a part of your client care. These are: abide by the Code of Ethics and the professional practice standards. As you move through your career, come back to these foundational documents to make sure you are adhering to them. Similarly, comply with mandatory self-reporting requirements, for example, reporting a current offense charge. Second, be aware of the zero-tolerance sexual abuse policy CRPO has. This means that remarks or touch of a sexual nature are never tolerated. This includes sexual remarks and sexual contact for 5 years after a client has completed therapy with you. Similarly, if you become aware that a fellow psychotherapist has sexually abused a client, or if you think a fellow RP is incompetent, incapacitated, or is practicing unsafely, you need to report that to CRPO. Third, ensure the information on your public register profile is up to date and accurate. You and members of the public, such as clients and insurance companies, can access the public register here. Let us know within 30 days of any changes to your name or contact information by using our public register update form. Fourth, cooperate with the college in the event that a complaint is alleged. You can review what happens in a situation where somebody files a complaint against you on our website. Finally, remember that all registrants must practice only in the areas of psychotherapy in which they have the necessary knowledge, skill, and judgment. Then there are obligations that are less about client care and more about your CRPO registration that helps the public understand that you are practicing safely. These include things like professional liability insurance, or PLI. It's up to you to get and maintain sufficient PLI and to write to us within 2 days of becoming aware if you do not have adequate PLI. As a CRPO registrant, you also have to use the appropriate title. For qualifying registrants, the only acceptable titles are Registered Psychotherapist Qualifying or the abbreviation RP Qualifying. RPQ is not an acceptable title. Qualifying must be spelt out in full. If you're a qualifying registrant, you must be actively pursuing the completion of requirements to transfer to the full RP category. Complete any outstanding education and clinical experience. If you were still in your education program at the time you applied for registration, be sure to have your institution send CRPO a final transcript showing you successfully completed your program. You must have 450 direct client contact hours and 100 hours of clinical supervision. No more than 50 hours of group supervision can count towards the 100 hours. Lastly, all qualifying registrants must practice with clinical supervision. After transferring to the full RP category, registrants must practice with clinical supervision until they meet the independent practice requirement of 1,000 direct client contact hours and 150 clinical supervision hours. No more than 75 group supervision hours can count towards the 150. The hours you have already completed count towards these goals. Now, the last thing for you to think about is your involvement in CRPO itself. The organization is governed by a council of RPs and members of the public, and there is an election every year so registrants can choose the professional members who will sit on council. Consider sitting on council and definitely vote. If you ever have any questions, the best place to start is CRPO's website. We have lots of frequently asked question pages about supervision, the exam, and practice matters. We also have tons of resources on the resources page of the website, including forums, guidelines, and checklists. If your questions aren't answered there, you can always send your questions in a message in your CRPO account or to one of our emails. We are always happy to set up a phone call too, if that is your preference. Again, congratulations on becoming a registrant of CRPO.